Hello! Woo! Okay. How is everybody? Whew. This book. What do you guys think? Let's talk about it. Catch-22. We were supposed to read up to chapter 10. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I only made it up to chapter 9. I did not finish my reading this time. I'm one chapter behind, but I'll make up for it later on. Whew. Weird. Okay. Alright. Weird is a good answer. What else we got? What else we got? This book is life. Confusing all the way. Lost. Wow. I don't like it. Okay. I'm doing very well. Thank you guys for asking. Super complicated. Okay. I'm so confused. Pardon me. Alright, so, interesting names. I don't understand anything. I'm not sure, but I'm curious to see where this is going. Confused John Travolta. It's growing on me. Okay, alright. Confusing, okay. Lots of names, yes. But you see, they keep coming back. So, like you guys, I'm confused as to where this novel is going. Such long sentences, having to keep rereading because I feel like I'm missing something. I totally agree. Little complicated. Like, weird funny. Okay? I'm glad you guys are getting funny out of this, because a lot of it is supposed to be filled with a lot of humor. A lot of these characters contradict themselves a lot. Alright, thank you, Kenzie Courtney. Awesome. I'm deciding if I should make coffee. Kind of reminds me of the intro to Slaughterhouse-5 when they said children are in wars. The characters seem childish in their speech and behavior. Cool. Don't know what the main point is. Alright. So, the contradiction. What do you think about the guy from Texas? The guy from Texas. You don't find it funny at all. Okay, cool. So glad to have reason to stop studying for this. It's so convoluted it manages to make sense. Okay, that's an interesting... Are you tired? I'm always tired. Never not tired. I laugh a lot while reading. Are we supposed to be confused? Is the tone for general feeling of soldiers? Coffee makes everything better. Totally agree. Alright. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm reading something really quickly. Hold on. Alright, so I'm going to read you guys the beginning of this synopsis. Okay? Is that okay? It's something that's helping me. Because I'll agree with you guys that this was it's a harder book to read. Alright, so I'll read the first synopsis so we kind of get an idea of going in. Interesting that Catch-22, that phrase, originated because of this book. Also, I love that a lot of you guys are bringing in Slaughterhouse-5 references or feeling something similar here, because in real life, Joseph Heller and Kurt Vonnegut were actually friends. And I feel like reading it to me, I was like, I see a lot of similarities. Think about it. They're both anti-war books written about World War II. So they both have that idea in it. So it says, one of the main goals of Catch-22 is to satirize the dehumanizing machinery of war by showing the irremovable survival impulse at the heart of every individual. By constantly making fun of wartime situations and by carrying arguments to their extreme, absurd conclusions, the novel shows the conflict that arises when a war's course is determined by factors alien to the people who are fighting the war. Through a maze of characters and events, Catch-22 explores war and bureaucracy and their effects on ordinary people. In the early chapters, chapters 1 through 5, these effects take the form of an absurd irony that penetrates virtually every facet of the characters' lives. The greatest irony is, of course, the perceived uselessness of the war, at least as it is carried out by the characters who surround Yossarian. All that matters to the generals controlling the troops is getting a promotion. All that matters to the troops is staying live long enough to go home. No one is concerned with the larger political or ethical implications of the war. The grand irony is played out in hundreds of small ways, with Yossarian and his companions acting in self-defeating, paradoxical ways simply because their actions have so little meaning. So in that, do we see the similar themes between this and Slaughterhouse? We see that they think war is meaningless. It seems that it's kind of crazy. They don't understand. Okay, you don't understand what I just read, so I'll break it down. So the reason why this book is a little weird, a little absurd, and they're constantly making jokes, is because the greatest irony is, of course, the perceived uselessness of war. All that matters to the generals are getting a promotion. All that matters to the soldiers is surviving long enough to go home. They don't really care anything else. They just want to go home. That's why the book starts with Yossarian in the hospital for a liver pain that he doesn't have, that he openly admits to the chaplain. The chaplain's like, so when you're feeling better? He's like, oh, I'm actually just fine. He's like, okay, that's good. So it's about, think about it. The Catch-22 is what is confusing everyone in this. To me, it's when Yossarian says, hey, it's only 40 missions. I've flown 44. I want to go home. And they're like, nah, you have to keep flying. We're going to make it 50. And you're like, no, it's 50. Okay? And he goes, well, why can't, if Orr, you know Orr's crazy? He's like, yeah, that guy Orr is super crazy. And he's like, why is Orr so crazy? He goes, because he keeps flying. He's like, so you would say that you were sane. So Orr would have to say, hey, I want to stop flying, for you to say, oh, actually, for you to not want to fly, you're sane. For you to want to fly, you're crazy. But I can't stop you from flying if you're flying. It's so... It's not confusing, it's pathetic. See? That's an interesting point of view, because you can see it that way as well. That's right, everyone. Thank you so much. Today is Jade Hasune's birthday. We will talk about that more towards the end of the live. None of them want to be there. Why would they? They want to go home, so they're trying to make it home. But they're going crazy also, right? They're all going crazy while all trying to feign craziness. At the same time, you see it perfectly in Yossarian's point of view, where he's like in the beginning with Clevenger, in the beginning of chapter 2, when Clevenger's like, Yossarian, they're all trying to kill you. He goes, yeah, they're trying to kill me. He goes, but who's trying to kill you? He goes, who do you think? He goes, I don't know who you're talking about. He goes, well, then you know. Yossarian's taking that very personally, which I think is funny. Alright, so I'm going to read you guys something else. One of the statements that the novel makes is that the rules that govern individuals also tend to shape their thoughts. The early chapters show us how the soldiers, imprisoned by the paradox of Catch-22, take this type of paradox to heart, pursuing irrelevancy, meaninglessness, and nonsense as though they are real values in the world where relevancy, meaning, and sense are impossible. So really, it's these guys going crazy on an island. I'm sorry I'm not helping you out better, because I'm kind of lost like you guys are. Not lost, I'm still trying to really understand it, and I've been doing research, and It's just this right now. Okay, Athena Kelly 87. I haven't got to read it yet, but it almost sounds like Klinger from MASH. The novel of the film of Catch-22 came out at the same time as the film for MASH. They're both very similar, and in reading them, people often say, whoa, I think of MASH when I see Catch-22, or I think of Catch-22 when I watch MASH. It's a very similar idea. Except MASH, I think was centered around the Vietnam War. But the films came out at the same time. Yossarian doesn't want to be there, so he fakes being ill. He's had enough, and he's proud that he doesn't have to do any work. I think for them, the way to stay sane is to act insane, to make fun of some situations. It's kind of like that. It's like the whole idea of war is so ludicrous. So ludicrous, and they're trying to treat it normally, but they're also changing rules, and it's just, they have to kind of go crazy to stay sane, but the minute they try to go sane, they have to do the crazy things they don't want to do. So it's crazy. Kenzie Courtney, I love that you're loving this book. I love Yossarian because he takes it personally. It's how to cope, and I guess how to stay alive. You have to care about yourself and worry, because if you don't, that's when you're truly crazy. It shows us how reverse war morale is to regular life morale. How reverse war morale is to regular life. How it's so different. War is hard to understand. I think it's pretty accurate. Work has taken almost... time. Oh, sorry, guys. Creo que toma un sentido de la guerra bastante extraño. Extraño, creo que sería la palabra. Extraño, creo que sería la palabra. No tiene un punto de vista diferente, pero es interesante ver a un personaje que está tan loco y cuerdo a la vez. Alright, so that was saying, like, weird is the best word to say it. It's no tiene un punto de vista diferente. There isn't a different point of view, but it's interesting to see a character that's so crazy but so sane at the same time. Sane in the membrane. Oh, Jordan Morella decides to join us today. What's up, J-Man? I'm going to call you later. Oh, I felt so far behind. The craziness is just a distraction they need to counteract the horror of war. I think we would all probably need something like this. Yes. But through the use of a lot of comedy. There's a lot of comedy in there that we can't see. Or that me was at first hard to understand. Oh. Okay. It's a kind of weird humor that's in the book, yeah. The apple cheeks. Thank you, Amanda Kennedock. That's exactly another scene that was kind of like that. Also, the apple cheeks scene was very much like Who's on First, if you guys have ever seen that. Who's on First by Abbott and Costello. If you've never seen it, I would check it out. Alright, so it's kind of like that. So what else? What else did you guys pick from the novel? What else from, I don't know, come on. Why might Heller have named characters after one character, but wrote them about another one? Chapters after one character, wrote about another one. I don't know. Why is everyone telling me to get coffee? I'll get coffee when I want to get coffee. What's up with the dialogue in this book? Am I the only one that thinks there are quite weird sometimes? Yes, it is very weird sometimes. And I think that's just supposed to be some sort of, what's it called? Some device. It's supposed to be kind of weird. It's supposed to be crazy. Think about the rules that they have to follow. They're stuck in this world that, even for purposes of the book, the island is actually smaller than it's described. It's fictitiously made big enough so that these guys are there. Why does everyone say I look exhausted? Stop. It was so hard for me to get behind the book when it so sexist and portrays women so poorly and hardly at all. Yeah, it was a thing at the time. It made him proud to observe that 29 months in the service had blunted his genius for ineptitude. It's Sunday. I don't know why that's happening to me lately. Lately when we do lives, I can't stop yawning. That's just something. The dead body. I don't understand the dead body either. Because they bring it up, but they haven't really talked about it more than the fact that there's just a dead body chilling in his trailer. Do they really mean a dead body, or is it supposed to be like a... The censoring of letters makes it seem as though the bureaucracy has the authority of God. I love that he messes with that. I love that he, takes that bureaucracy and is like, I'm just going to do whatever I want because this is all pointless. It's meaningless. It's a fake dead body? You have flies in your eyes. I like that part. Okay, yes. Scribe Sarah. Metaphor is rampant in this storytelling. And it's kind of crazy because at first it's almost like you have to read this book with a little bit of detachment from the text. You can't take everything said as complete truth. You have to be almost aware of the irony or aware of this joke that's always kind of happening that's not talked about. You know? What do you guys think about that? See, they talk about the dead body in chapter 9. I only read up to chapter 9. I didn't read up to chapter 10. So I didn't read that part yet. I'm sorry. I'm behind. It's interesting to see how these random people react to war. Like they said in the first chapter, when someone said a war was going on, they thought he was insane. When Yossarian's identity begins to blend with popular literary figures, Tarzan, Flash Gordon, Kane, Ulysses, I thought of Yossarian as the everyman. What do you think? I would agree with that. I think he's trying to say this is what... I would agree with that. Very much so. Yeah, you guys really are on fire. Camille, I'm trying to read everyone's comments as well. Everybody's happy, but... Oops. Everybody's happy, but this thud, and there's no sense worrying about him, since he doesn't even speak our language or deserves what he gets. Yankee, No, I don't think Yossarian's crazy either. I think he's literally just trying to cope, and it's just this fear. Also, this for me, the beginning impacted me so much when Yossarian was like, "Why are they trying to kill me?" And he makes a comment again, like, "I'm trying to kill people that I don't even know." Which makes this book very interesting in an anti-war book, because this is a war where there are very clear sides, right? There was an evil and a good, and people were fighting. Like, that's one of Yossarian's big things with Clevenger, is that he doesn't understand why he's so passionate about this. Clevenger sees the good and the evil in this, whereas Yossarian just sees a war being fought, people killing each other for, I don't even know you, and I'm dropping bombs where you live. It's like that. I do enjoy war and anti-war books. I like both. Huh. I love that, because war is personal. You lay your life down and sacrifice yourself. That is the most personal, and Yossarian knows that. You know, it's funny that, Nameless Matthew, you say, it also seems like everyone doesn't understand that there's a war going on. Yossarian and Dunbar are the only ones who seem to be understanding that. I think everyone else, that's an interesting comment. I actually like Yossarian. He gives me some humanity in a war scenario. And I thought Slaughterhouse 5 was confusing. Yeah, I would agree. He had decided to live forever and die in the attempt. I love that line. I love that quote a lot. Because I think just in that the generals are the colonels are more, they care more about the Sunday parades and what they get from that than the actual spoils of war, so to speak. So it's like, it's a perspective that people aren't really fighting for the right reasons. I don't know. He also quoted Hamlet. To die or not to die, that is the question. So I think it's interesting that we're noticing these little other literary things he's leaving behind. I found a lot of similarities between this book and 1984. I mean, the concept of Catch-22 is really weird. It's like brainwashing, no freedom. Thank you for bringing that up, Lupresta Mariana. The concept of a Catch-22, to me, is very much like doublethink, or doublespeak. Right, and that's something that's interesting now. All over the world. I'm going to read this quote. Thank you, the name remains. All over the world, boys on every side of the bomb line were laying down their lives for what they had been told was their country. And no one else seemed to mind. Least of all, the boys who were laying down their lives. It should remind you of MASH. My Nana's read this book, and I asked if she can explain things. She just said it'll explain itself later. Just read. Okay, cool. So I'm glad it's all going to come back. Fruit is good for my liver, that's why I never eat any. The book is filled with these contradictions. I don't think it has anything to do with Yossarian. And I think that's one of the things that's interesting is how personally Yossarian takes everything. Like, no, now it's 50 missions. You can't have 50. You have to fly 50 missions before you can go home. And then Yossarian, is upset by that. And I understand. Like, to me, they put their lives on the line every single time they fly one mission. So to constantly be told more and more and more. It also speaks to the reality of war and maybe how hard it is to stay focused when your colonels only really care about the parades and people are dying, and then you're putting your life up on the line to do that. Maybe a long life does have to be filled with many unpleasant conditions if it is to seem long. Oh yeah, and how funny was that? The only people who could ask questions were the people who don't ask questions, so they stopped even doing the meetings because they realized that it was a waste of time to even try to teach people who don't ask questions. I loved that part. That part was chapter 2, I think. Man, I can't find it. You think chapter 9 is the best so far? Okay, see, that's where I haven't read it yet, so. It was neither possible nor necessary to educate people who never question anything. Thank you, the name remains. I couldn't find it. Chapter 4, okay. Creo que todo es libro que es confuso es mucho más interesante leer, puesto que cada línea es un paso más para entender todos los siglos. Okay, I didn't finish that one, sorry. The whole thing is a catch-22. How they can't be sane but have to be insane, but in order to be not flying, and they have to ask to not fly, which would make them sane. The same thing, it's 50 missions by the colonel, but really they only have to serve 40. But because the colonel ordered 50, they can't break orders, so they have to do the 50, even though they've already done the 40. It's all tied into this. It's how it's. To me, it's also speaking about these wars that you're kind of roped into, whether because of how you're supposed to feel about them or the rules you're supposed to live by. We live in an age of distrust and deteriorating spiritual values. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing when even the word of a licensed physician is suspected by the country he loves. Hunting down a character map for this book. I can't keep everyone straight. If you find one, can you tweet it? And I'll retweet it. I think that the whole book is confusing and full of contradictions because the story is told from the point of view of the soldiers, and they're all weird. Well, also, who really calls the shots? Not the soldiers, the people above. So for them, it is confusing, and it makes no sense. One day we're firing, next week all we can do is follow orders. For me, this is one of the harder books that we've read. It references how the colonel was the bravest man who volunteered his men for the most dangerous missions. I liked that because it's true. It's easy to volunteer the lives of others, not yourself. Well, the doc is a total contradiction. He's a cheerful guy whose idea of a good time was a nice like slump, or what does it say? A nice sulk. Yeah, thank you, Kenzie. I agree. Everyone, you get mad props if you're reading in English and English is your second language. I'm reading in English and I'm finding it hard to do. So the fact that you're doing it in English and getting there, proud of you guys. What do I think so far? Thank you for asking me. I'm interested to see where it's going. I am confused at times. I find some of the characters funny. Oddly enough, I like Yossarian a lot as a character. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think he's actually a pretty good leader. I like Clevenger a lot, too. I like that Yossarian doesn't like him because he's passionate about things, because I feel like that's not uncommon for people to to dislike people that are passionate. Passionate people are dangerous. People who did lie on the whole, were more resourceful, more ambitious, successful than those who didn't. He says his men will take down the bridge in 24 hours. They still haven't taken it down after a week. What do you think about the chapter dedicated to military parades? I think that chapter is interesting, especially at the time. I think it's supposed to be like, all of this is happening, and this chapter is just about this that people are worried about, but it really does nothing, and they take it seriously, but not that seriously, because all the soldiers are kind of hungover, and they're just trying to do it best, and his whole military genius was figuring out how to make soldiers look better while they marched their hands. All of these things that we're pointing out, when thought about out loud, will give us more insight to what he's really trying to say. He's trying to bring out this meaninglessness, this complete devotion to these ideals that people don't really understand. In the United States, it's very prevalent. This very much taught patriotism that can be blind sometimes. His paramount concern throughout the entire assault was to keep his dark glasses and fault mustache in place, so that he might continue pretending he was somebody else. We can't feel that these soldiers weren't raised to be soldiers because they just want this war to stop. They just want to go home. You know, it's funny. I was reading Slaughterhouse-5 yesterday, and hold on. This reminded me of the part where Weary is fighting Billy Pilgrim in the bank of like the river, and they look up and they see the Germans that capture them, and there's the dog, and then Kurt Vonnegut talks about how the dog was just a farmer's dog yesterday, and now was a soldier in the war. And I think that's what you're kind of alluding to, is that like all of these men had other jobs, they were other things, and I think the Doctor is supposed to show that. That his whole other life was starting to move, and then this war happened. That stopped the whole world from spinning, and everyone had to deal with it. And sometimes you didn't really know what you were fighting. Mostly just boredom. Ooh. When Milo finds out the chief put sweet potatoes into the men's soup. There's no Paul in this book. I think the person's referring to Paul Wesley. I have no idea when Paul's going to get here. I have no idea what episode he's directing. I think I actually don't know. So, I'm not the right person to ask. People don't tell me these things. Have I watched the movie? No. I don't watch the movie of books until after, I read the book. He just wanted big cheeks. Why did he need an explanation? When he was a kid, I walked around with apples in my cheeks so that I could get big apple cheeks. Just because he wanted it. I think that was the funny thing. I know he's directing. I'm just not positive it's this episode or the next episode. So I don't know if he's in town yet. We haven't started 14 yet, I don't think. So he wouldn't be in town until then to start prepping. The amazing aspect of Heller's writing is that it's told from such an uncommon and out-of-order style and technique that marks his story and differentiates it from other war books like Slaughterhouse-5. Also, Slaughterhouse-5 always kind of set up the time travel. Slaughterhouse-5 always said, Billy blinked and now he was back in 1967, standing at the podium at the Ilium, you know? Oh, no, now Billy was back in 1942, he was 12. It always set up when they were doing time travel, where here, it was very much just like that, they just keep talking, and then you have to use these context clues to be like, oh, this was in the past, because this was talking about when it was only 40 missions to be able to go home. We already know that it's already 55. So it's one of those things. Do I like poetry? Yes, I love poetry. Okay, stop it. I also like how they talk about something like Irving Washington. Signing letters is new and will not be monotonous. Only there's nothing else to do and it grows monotonous. Dr. Nika was always comparing his suffering to everyone else, like he was worse than others. He complains a lot. Yes, he does. No matter what distractions they use, be it crazy banter or assigning Irving or Washington, it grows monotonous. They can't distract themselves forever. And think about it. There's always this impending thing that a mission may come and they will die. Men went mad and were rewarded medals. Very important line. I think the first chapter, it gives a lot of information, just like the first chapter of Slaughterhouse-5. Reading that book and then rereading the first chapter will let you know how much he really alludes to in the book. And I'm interested to do the same thing with this, to read the whole thing and then reread the first chapter and see how much I can kind of, pull back in. No, Nicole. I don't think the Texan really killed the guy in the first chapter. That scene was the first scene where I realized that they're literally making a joke of everything. Him and Dunbar are on the same page. Him and Dunbar are like, this is ludicrous. And the fact that you would actually even think that we think that you killed this person, and that's ridiculous. But yeah, we know that you're going to think that, so we're going to mess with you. You're a murderer. To me, that seems like one of the funniest scenes in the book. Was when they made the Texan think that he killed the guy. He's like, I didn't touch him. I love that. I think no one can stand him because he's the one, he's like refusing to see what everyone else sees in that place. I really enjoyed the part about the major who discovers his real name, that everybody has pulled him away because another person's name wasn't the same person. Get Fortnite? Dude, I'm on a book live, man. Text me. Okay, That's a really good question. Why was Yossarian so excited by the chaplain? Why did he like that? That's one thing. That's a very good question. What is that relationship? And what was that? You don't find any of the characters likable. Okay, cool. That's totally fine. Totally fine. Let's go down to the bottom. It was love at first sight. I think that'll come back. Guys, I know I should read chapter 9. I'm going to read it in our next assignment. Whew. They always come back. Thank you guys for that. I sneezed. Alright, so we have about 10 minutes left. We have about 10 minutes left because I started a little late today. Yeah, my favorite quote was the one that chapter 4. I'm going to read the part that is my favorite part. So, my favorite part is Group headquarters was alarmed, for there was no telling what people might find out once they felt free to ask whatever questions they wanted to. Colonel Cathcart sent Colonel Corn to stop it, and Colonel Corn succeeded with a rule governing the asking of questions. Colonel Corn's rule was a stroke of genius. Colonel Corn explained in his report to Colonel Cathcart. Under Corn's rule, the only people permitted to ask questions were those who never did. Soon the only people attending were those who never asked questions, and the sessions were discontinued altogether. Since Clevenger, the corporal, and Colonel Corn agreed that it was neither possible nor necessary to educate people who never questioned anything. I thought that was like my favorite. Okay, he's going to live forever or die in the attempt. Love that question. Love that one too. That men would die is a matter of necessity. Which men would die, though, was a matter of circumstance. And Yossarian was willing to be the victim of anything but circumstance. I was only trying, sir. The only way a person can learn is by trying. My favorite quote is about how some are born mediocre and some achieve mediocrity. Some have mediocrity thrust upon them. There's nothing wrong with nightmares. Every night. Why not every night? The men of the squadron live in constant fear of losing their lives. I understand why they have nightmares every night. Why did and how did I choose this book? I chose this book because I'd never read it, and I thought it was going to be amazing. So I'm excited to finish it and then figure out how I feel about it for myself. So, let's do this really quickly. I have to read chapter 9, but that's not of your concern if you've already read it. So, this book is a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. So I'm going to minimize the amount of pages we have to read, so that people can feel more comfortable rereading them, so that we can feel a little more, so that also for me, so that I can feel a little more prepared. Because today, finish it, I still haven't gotten a grasp on what I really think is going on, and that was really hard for me. So, all right. I think we're going to read to chapter 18. So, for me, that's 9 chapters. For everyone else, that might be more or less. That's about 75 pages. Does that sound cool? So, don't read through it, read up to it. The soldier who saw everything twice. Can I do lives earlier for the people in Australia? That would require me to wake up earlier. And if you guys are already saying I'm super tired now, you can only imagine if I did not get the other 2 hours of my sleep. I'm doing my best, guys. Saturdays or Sundays, this is the only time I can do this, that most people can do it. We'll always try to do the Saturday or Sunday. I'll keep doing that. But that's the best I can do. Yes, so chapters 10 to 18. All right, 10 to 18. If you haven't read 9, like me, you're reading all the way to 9. You have to read more than you should. But if we catch up, we'll be good to go. Before we go, also we need to talk about this. Sleep. I'll do it later. What time day? Remember, Saturday or Sunday. Always Saturdays or Sundays. On Friday, I will post. Thursday or Friday, I'll post the thing. What should we do? Saturday or Sunday, and we'll pick it. Yes, everyone, I saw everything you did for my birthday. Oh, I wanted to talk about a couple things. I wanted to say thank you so much for everything you did for my birthday. My 25th birthday was awesome. I worked all day. I was on set all day. I worked first. I couldn't imagine having a better birthday. It was really cool. What else? Thank you so much. For everyone in Florida, as a Floridian who grew up really close to Parkland, enough is enough. And if you ever need to talk to anyone, there are plenty of people that care that you can talk to. If you're feeling lost or scared, know that we're all praying for you, we're all there for you, and we as a generation will make sure that these type of things stop happening. That's all I can say, and I'm sorry, because thoughts and prayers, that's not good enough. So that's what I'll say about that. It was a shock. I had a great birthday. We'll talk details about that picture that Chai posted. What do you mean details? Took some really good pictures of other people recently, so I'll be posting, because I got a new camera, so I'll be posting more pictures. Shadowhunter Season 3 is going strong. It's doing really well, but more importantly, we have about 5 minutes left. The cake was incredible. What about Tessa? Anyway, so we have 5 minutes left. So, thank you. She is a babe. So, thank you. But we'll talk to guys. Come on, let's stay on topic. So, now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, no! Today is someone's birthday who's very, very special to me. He's one of my best friends of all time. You guys might know him. I know him really well. His name's Jade Hasune. He is in the top 10 for Canadian Screen Award, and we want him to win. So, I want everyone, for Jade's birthday, to do 2 things. I want everyone to go wish Jade a happy birthday because he deserves to have a wonderful day. And I want all of you to go onto my Insta Live, my Insta story. I'm going to post on my account, not on the book club, on my account. I'll post a swipe up link where you guys can swipe up and vote for Jade. Do it for his birthday. Vote as many times as you can. There are only 2 more days to vote, so you got to do it now. I would do it on Instagram and then go do it on Twitter, because you can do, that's 200 times, and then tell Jade that you did, so that Jade get your support. Knowing that you guys support us is always like some of the best part of what we do. So I know that he'll really appreciate it. And you're right, he deserves it so much. He's the only person of color who's been nominated for an award, and as a rule, we need to champion that. We need to say, hey, we want more of this diversity. We think, also, if you haven't seen his work, I'm not speaking just as like, he's my friend. I watched That's My DJ Season 3, and it was absolutely incredible. So he deserves every bit of that as he can. So you can vote on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Do it. Do it. I'm going to do it when we hang up. So yeah. Anchor's team supports him. Everyone, thank you so much. So remember, up to chapter 18 for our next live, Saturday or Sunday. Chapter 18. Yeah, that's pretty much. We still got a couple minutes. Wow, we did well. We did well. We did pretty well, guys. I'm proud of us. I wish I was able to discuss more knowingly of this book, but I will next time. I will see you guys next week. Have a great Sunday. Have a great Sunday. I will be reading and doing things. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Keep reading. Keep being positive changes, positive forces for change in the world. Tell everyone you love them. Keep your eyes open. And just keep being awesome. I'll see you guys later. Have a good Sunday, guys. Peace.